Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Adoptee Literary Festival Roundtable reading. I'm Carrie Bondi. I am the Zoom tech for tonight, and we have a great lineup of authors who are going to each do a reading for us. And first up is Ellis Stevens. I will put bios in the chat to give people more time to read.
Thank you, Carrie. I just want to say quickly that Eric Smith and Nicole Chung, who were supposed to participate in this, are not able to, but we were very glad to have them in the festival. Okay, this is my reading. It's called Jochebed. A false prophet has decreed that you are to be cast into the river Nile. I have already expelled you once from my womb. How can I part with you more than that? You are my miracle baby, marked by God, and I harbor you as a fugitive, as Pharaoh's men bay like bloodhounds, intoxicated by the scent of human sacrifice. I ponder how I can obey Pharaoh's decree to the letter, if not the spirit, and give my newborn son to the water. When Pharaoh's soldiers come to reap our sons, I hide you among the bulrushes. As women wail while their naked male children are hurled through the air, 5-pointed stars, to land with a small splash in the sparkling river, I rustle the canes to drown out their sorrow. Choosing the sturdiest stalks, I give a prayer of thanks as I cut them from their roots with a sharp blade that I long to sink into Pharaoh's heart. For 3 months, my milk has been flowing like the waters of the Nile, strong and rich with life force. Soon you will be too big to remain hidden amongst the reeds. The other women, the ones left with only sorrow and shame, look at you, coveting and resentful. It is only a matter of time before one of them, crazed by the injustice of losing a healthy child, betrays you. One by one, I leave the reeds to dry in the sun, not the pitiless eye of Ra, but the orb that is mother to us all, Hebrews and sun worshippers alike. As you grow, so does the collection of reeds. Your father urges me to relinquish you to Pharaoh's men. If we are found to be defying Pharaoh, we too will be put to death, and not as kindly as a drowning in the Nile's sacred water. I do not tell him of my plans for you, for men cannot be trusted when it comes to resistance. They would rather bend their knee to power and obey. But you are different, my Moses. From the moment you began to grow in my womb, I felt the mark of God. The only thing I know in these times of terror, oppression, and coercion is that I must give you up to give you life. Whom better to entrust you to than the Nile? Those waters that have sustained our people since creation will carry you forth to your destiny. As my hard used brown fingers weave the reeds, dried by the sun for strength, and seal and soaked in the Nile for pliability, they whisper to me that water and fire will be your elements. You will make the seas part and bushes burn. For you, the very stones will speak. I tell myself it is a cradle I am making for you and not a coffin. I collect the resin from pine trees and mix it with ox dung and ash, heating it over fire, then cooling it into sticky pitch that I daub onto the basket for waterproofing, so that she who finds you will know that you were loved, cherished, and given up only under the greatest of duress. I line the basket with the finest of my hand-woven linens. Finally, I wrap you, already a strapping specimen and a credit to your tribe at just 12 years old, in the softest muslin stitched with thread of gold and royal blue, so that you will know that while you are from humble beginnings, you were sent forth with the best of what we had. This is the easiest thing I have ever done and the most difficult. You look at me with trust and love as I wade us into the Nile. My tunic sticks to my goose-pimpled skin. The water sucks hungrily at my legs. My naked feet sink into the Nile's fertile viscera. I place the basket in the water. Will it float? The basket bobs as the current greedily grabs at it. With a gentle push, I direct it toward a distant bend in the river, where a thick stand of papyrus protects the women of Pharaoh's household as they bathe. The basket drifts away from me, sunlight sparking off the roiling water. I turn away before I lose sight of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. That was awesome. Next up, we have Jonathan Wittmaier.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be in virtual community with you all. Thank you to everyone who helped organize this today. I'm going to read a poem I wrote after traveling to Korea for the first time since I've been adopted. And this poem actually first appeared in Museum of Americana, which just released its final issue, sadly, this past February. So I want to give them a quick shout out. Okay. Rescue animals. I'm sitting in the airport, hot and sticky with sweat, waiting for my plane to Jeju. Is this what reconnecting feels like? There's a large flat screen TV in front of me, LG brand with Korean lettering under the logo. An English woman and her husband are being interviewed. They say they like to rescue farm animals, like chickens, unable to breed, destined for pies, she says. Now they get their first taste of freedom. I've come here to find my birth mother, but for all I know, she's long gone, moved away, moved on, or worse. I feel my ears turning red as the sun, setting over Incheon, beams down on the terminal. I miss American air conditioning, although for most of the appliances in our first apartment, LG brand also. Behind the TV, on the other side of the giant glass windows, a jet crawls across the tarmac, the sun slipping behind the tail fin marked with words in a language I never had the chance to learn. Back on the screen, the host, an Englishman in a quarter zip and corduroys, gets a tour of the couple's so-called sanctuary somewhere in the English countryside. I can hardly make out what they're saying. The audio is dubbed, one language stacked on top of the other, and since we aren't yet stateside, the Korean goes on top, forcing me to read subtitles. Makes me think of those old kung fu movies I used to watch at my grandparents' house, but in reverse. I remember I'd sit on the carpet with whatever toy, while my grandfather watched with my aunt's first husband, who, like me, was also adopted. I remember the whole room always stinking of cigarette and cigar smoke as we watched shirtless Asian men grunt and kick each other to death, their bodies dripping with sweat and fake blood. Other times, we'd watch the Godzilla marathon on TCM, see helpless droves of Japanese screaming for their lives, Mothra soaring overhead, just like a Boeing B-29. For them, my grandfather said, the only thing scarier than a giant reptile is the American military industrial complex. I remember, as a kid, I used to love flying, but now I've seen one too many movies, read too many news stories about close calls, system glitches, human error, and soon, when I'm 30,000 feet above the Pacific, strapped into a Boeing 747, I'll think to myself, for me, the only thing worse than a giant reptile is a rescue animal. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Next up is Dr. Liz DeBetta.
Hey everyone, I'm so jazzed to be here. I'm going to read a little excerpt from my as yet unpublished memoir, Kintsugi. What am I holding in my body? This body that sees, hears, feels too much and not enough. This body that holds me together when all I want is to fall apart, partitioning myself into particles, pieces, portions that are disproportionate to what my body holds, to what my body needs to heal and be whole. I have several beauty marks in the shape of the Little Dipper, or maybe it's the Big Dipper, on the upper part of my left arm. I have always wanted someone to notice them and trace them as if they mean something. It's a romantic notion, I know. But I have always wanted someone, a man who I love, to trace those marks and connect the dots. Somehow this seems important, the knowing of these marks on my skin, the knowing of my body against and with another, the attention to detail that comes with true intimacy and awareness. The knowing of something that seems small and insignificant is huge to me because I have been unknown for so long, even to myself. I am unknown because I am adopted, and being adopted means being unknown, being unmoored, untethered, adrift on a ship full of ghosts. I've been at sea for most of my life without knowing it. It's a good thing I like swimming because otherwise I might have drowned. It took me a long time before I realized I was adrift. I thought I was fine. I thought I was normal. I thought I was just struggling to figure out life like everyone else, except I wasn't at all like everyone else. And everyone else seemed to be managing to figure out their lives, and mine just kept exploding. As children, we believe what we are told. We believe when we are told we are special, chosen, wanted. We believe whatever our parents tell us because we have no other truth to compare it to. In the absence of truth, I had fiction. Fiction that was created by necessity due to a lack of information and a romanticized but skewed notion of family and belonging. This is one of the problems with closed adoption. It asks that one family be erased in order to create another one that is more socially acceptable, one with two parents instead of one. And in order to belong, you have to go along with the new story, the story that is created for you. You also have to live with the ghosts and shadows of the story and people you don't get to know, the people and places you aren't allowed to want to be close to or even ask about. Your silence is the price of peace, and you learn to keep it at any cost. Exorcising demons is hard at 14 or 40. I've lain too long in this bed with ghosts, my bones stacked with the bones of memory. Sepulchre-like, they suffocate, shrouding me, suffusing the reality of what is. I sleepwalk, afraid of the shadows that follow, shadows that hollow and harrow, holding me hostage to myself. These bones need release from the restlessness of the past, casting shadows on the present, presenting me with pain remembered, memorialized in my flesh, flooding my senses senselessly. The ghosts give nothing in return, but flesh remembers, bones don't forget, and my body is not a tomb. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Lora Alegria.
Hi, thank you. I just have two short pieces that I'm going to read. This one's called Secure in the Nothing Place. The Nothing Place, where I arrived when I lost my mother moments after birth, where I have lived and the place I know well, the place I reject the woman who tries to take her place. No one understands this place. I am all alone, floating in a void, untethered. There is a black hole between me and the rest of the world. Home. And the second piece is something I actually read at Dr. DeBetta's first Adoptee Remembrance Day event back in 2020. And I co-led with Nick today the Writing into the Void. So what comes after this piece in my personal story is my estrangement. So it's called Broken Promises. You promised better. I got different. You promised a blank slate, but I had names, history, roots, and genetics that you erased. You pretended they were not there, yet I carried them with me, hidden inside. You promised a piece of clay to be molded, but that molding only left me unable to fit anywhere. You promised love would be enough, but it was not. I needed my genetics and DNA to complete my story. You promised a baby, but I already had parents. You promised love, I got lifelong trauma and confusion. You promised a family. I got strangers, loneliness, and hypervigilance. You promised giving, but all you did was take. You promised a mother, but no one can mother me except myself. On the surface, you look like success, but the wake you leave is vast, and you have failed at keeping all your promises. I hate you, adoption. I wish I had never been your pawn. But I see through you now. I am fully awake. I am fixing your broken promises. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Marci, Calabretta, Cancio-Bello.
Hi, everyone. It's a joy to read with everyone and to be part of the constellation of adoptee voices here today. I'm going to read two very short pieces. One comes from a portfolio of Asian adoptee diaspora writing that poets Jennifer Kwan Dobbs and Lee Herrick put together. I'm going to put the folio link in the chat for folks who want to read the rest of the pieces later. I have been writing about the collective voice of people in the adoptee constellation, particularly mythical and biblical voices. And so this poem is from the voice of the brothers who sold Joseph into slavery to Egypt. It's called "Forgiveness is not a star, but a dragonfly." "Here comes the dreamer," we said. "Come, let us crush the irised wings. Your brother's teeth are long and sharp as a tiger's stripes. See how we devour this dragonfly whole. What can we reap from a dreamer? If only you were not as you are, we would not have sold you. Such silver lines your coat now. See how you've grown comfortable with your own death. What animal gnaws at you now? We didn't know you would be king. If only we had. If only we'd known." And then the second piece I'll read, in their panel, Shannon Gibney and Sara Myer and Lisa Ulim Schoblom were talking about doubles in the ghost kingdom. And for both Lisa and Sarah's work, mirrors appear in their comics. And I think mirrors are such a fraught image for a lot of us. And so I had been writing this poem for several years, I think. And so I wanted to read it today for all of us as a bit of a blessing instead of a curse. It's called "Vanish." When you look in the mirror, time flinches and separates your every glance at every past self. Look behind you, another version of you caught in gossamer. Beside you, another and another and another. What is a mirror? Layers of you suspended and fractal, all your past selves beheld at once. When you stop looking, you've decided which version you will be today. When can you see yourself exactly as you are? You are more spacious than you've ever been. Step through these halls lavished with light. Ambition peels away like plastic, another self slipping away to rest. You wish to be held like you hold your phone. Today you are memorable. What will you be tomorrow when you finally stop looking in the mirror? Which luminous version of you stays behind? Which version steps outside? Which version do you let rest? Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Next up is Mariama, J. Lockington.
Hi, everyone. This has been such a cup-filling day, so thank you, everyone. And it's really nice to end with this reading and hearing these amazing voices. I had the chance to Zoom tech and be a fly on the wall for the Writing in the Void workshop today. which was about estrangement. And it gave me the courage to read this poem tonight called Estrangement. Estrangement. I need a knife, not a tongue. I need an earthquake in my belly, a rib sharpened until it is audacious with precision. I need a new story to hang my outrage on. I need a racehorse, a kicked up wind. I need a heavy bridle, a percussion of leather in my hands. I need a riot of sparrows at my window. I need a window open, a freedom breeze, a night so black I am sucked back into its marrow. I need a mother, a father, who see every overripe part of me, who consider the pit, too, the hard, generating core. I need a memorial for my shame, an altar to rest each unspoken, toxic contract from childhood upon, a flame lit at the papery corners, thick smoke of mercy. I don't need you kneeling, marching, sending empty texts. I need you without armor. You are not a shield. You are two humans sliced thin with your own grief and survival, and you are not listening. I am telling you who I am, and your ears are choosing to only hear the tenor of war. I am not here to kill you, to erase you. I am not here to strike you down. I am simply trying to say, I love you. However, I love myself more. I will not carry your grief flag as if it were my own. I will not stay quiet in service of your walls. I will not bend into the shape of your trauma. I have my own terrors to undo, a superhero cape to retire, a mouth of abandon to fill. I am too grown to pretend I am not, to say a docile child for the sake of your luxury. Hear this now. My tongue is my own, and it is sharp with healing.
Wow, thank you for that. Next up is Nari, Kirk.
Hello, I will be reading two poems that I actually haven't shared publicly before. The first one pushes back against the term girl math. Poetry, oh, it's called computation. Poetry, I once read, is numbered language. I told a mathematician. 0 on his face, he said that made no sense. What is the proof for your opinion, I almost asked, or is it axiomatic? He and I were in a book club discussing lines like, do you think your mother loves you when you fart? And he was flummoxed by flatulence and couplets that couldn't be numbered. They were 15.5. Fine. Numbering doesn't equal counting. Our days are numbered, our counting a finite attempt to touch the negligible and infinite. Transitive property. If poetry equals numbered language and numbered language equals mortality, poetry equals mortality. I postulate, I make no sense. But limits, I know. My body holds X and only X. X, my father explained, could be any value. I pointed my pencil at a problem. This X can be anything? No, he said, it's 12. That solution is X of the X I hold. My X might be a petty decimal or a big fucking integer to the nth fucking power, but it's got 3 quatrains. My X is multitudinous and divisible, free verse and holy, holy as words that break lines. What is this within me? The sum of what I can carry, sad mass, inadequately chewed corn, a scream, a picture of my parents, lips together and alone. That Frost poem about a spider, Johnny Gilbert's voice, a list of jerks lovelier than I, another of jerks who love me. 10 digits of pi, the circle of fifths, dust, doused in MSG, glitter from 6 Christmases back, origami memories of my grandma's penciled brows and the old buttered toast she kept in her oven for later. In calc, I'd watch the chalk spread from the professor's hands across the board and down his slack-clad thighs, and I'd marvel at its reach, how far so little could go, how long and short it could live, how much it could say. And the second poem is There's No Synonym for Nocturnal. Yet so many animals are. The paradoxical frog, the wombat, the aardvark. I've been called cat-like by self-proclaimed night owls whose lights are out at 12, and it's just me again, only child after parents have turned in, and for the first time since dawn, freedom from adults, from set tables and dear Jesuses, from being seen, not heard. Inky liberation, my hands darting for flashlight or flesh, story time of my own choosing. Nowadays, at 10, my spouse kisses me goodnight, and I prowl the house, run my fingers along book spines, my tongue along teeth backs, email my mother, everything's good, text my friend, everything's bad. By 2, everything is hyperbole and syntax, uncanny conjuries. The wolf and the loris know this. To night is to be alive and to be alone, to wordsmith the self to smithereens. Here I am, here I am, here I am. There's but one word for each of us, awake and solitary under the moon. It holds us as we make it. Only child, I can best long for another when by myself. Only child, it's dark outside. I want to be heard, being lonely. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Next, we have Nick Chang Hoon.
I just continue to be blown away by all of your work, and I'm so honored to share this space with you. I'll be reading from the opening of my current memoir in progress that was also published in January in the Bellingham Review, and shout out to them. They're just a wonderful team. Father, I have never heard your voice, other than in the conversations that neither occurred nor are likely to occur, yet pain to speak in constrained whispers. I have never seen your face, other than in the subtle, mysterious ways that distinguish my features from yours. Am I imagining those eyes turned outward, those cheekbones nudged higher? A blurred portrait placed between libations of makgeolli and rice. I later learned that shortly before I first re-met Mother, at 3 in the afternoon on April 23rd, 2010, she had called you many times, told you that I had found her and was back in Korea, asked you to come see me just once, with or without her. According to Mother's memory, you said that you could not be bothered. You did not share why, but based on what I know about you, I suspect it is because you had already bothered enough with too many women, who gave you too many children, who called too many times to request far too much of your attention. The last time Mother tried to reach you, a woman whose voice she did not recognize picked up, said to not call again, and cut the line. One day in 2017, long after I had returned from Korea to Minnesota, I discovered that your number was still saved to my Samsung Galaxy phone. My phone was linked to my Kakao account. My Kakao account was synced to my phone contacts so that one day, without warning, I saw your profile. On it, instead of your face, was that of a small girl with a nose shaped very much like mine, round and wide at the base, firmly planted. I did not know whether it was wise to look or not to look. What right did you have to suddenly appear, daring me to erase the one whom, given all available evidence, you chose to keep instead? I might have forgiven you for discarding me, Could I say with certainty that I would have chosen differently? I might have excused your tantrums. Who am I to condemn the only trait I know to have inherited from you? I might even have overlooked your emotional abuse toward mother had you at least decided that I was worth the time to meet. Does that make me desperate? I might have forgiven you if even one of these things were true. You made forgiveness impossible when, faced with a choice, you refused to see me even once. I honestly believe I would have met you anywhere. I would have taken the most inconvenient bus to make our arrangement the most convenient for you. I would have donned black sweatpants and a hoodie, sunglasses and a bandana, waiting in a dank alley in the middle of the night, feet rocking atop strewn trash and leaflets advertising Norebang Doumi, worried that I'd be stood up like a debtor to a loan shark who didn't want their money back. Like that, I would have waited. I would have waited for you anywhere, even if I hated myself for it, just to be able to say that I had tried. This was not supposed to be a letter possessed by anger. This was supposed to be magnanimous, a gesture of mercy and compassion, a squirming of words to reach the conclusion that despite your dehumanizing decisions, you too have humanity worth affirming. You were not supposed to take up much more than this. You were not supposed to take up anything at all. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Next up is Rob Arnold.
Hello, everybody. So, gosh, wow, Nick, that was really powerful, and I definitely don't want to follow you, but I'm going to also be reading from an excerpt of an essay. This essay is called Great American Eclipse, and it was published in a journal, maybe aptly named Solstice. But it's a story about journeys of many different kinds that I've taken in my life, and including to see this particular eclipse. But this particular section is about a search to find my birth mother. So you were the type to be taken in, prone to visions, to journeys and wild hopes. 2 years earlier, you'd sought out your birth mother, mother of absence, mother of disappearance, the mother who carried you in her swollen belly, who gave to you her black hair, her brown eyes, brown skin. All your life she had burned bright in your imagination, the subject of every minor key song you heard on the radio. Even in childhood, you could embody the singer's melancholy, their deep loss. Hey, the man would croon, did you happen to see the most beautiful girl in the world? And the lost love to you was always your mother. Sometime after he remarried, steadily divesting from reminders of his former family, your adopted father started mailing you boxes of family photos, tattered envelopes stuffed with documents. You opened one and realized you were looking at your original birth certificate, not the fake one, not the one full of lies issued after your adoption. This certificate, so small, so unassuming, carried the secrets of your true name, your true lineage. You held the mimeograph document in your hands for the first time, and a kind of energy flowed into you. In the decades between infancy and this moment, tech conglomerates had sent robots through the web and cataloged every click, every byte of data they could find. They'd recorded every inch of road in the country, sent satellites into space, placed listening devices in the pockets of anyone worth listening to. In your hand, you realized, was a trove of actionable information, an analog database waiting to be indexed. Every name and address was a path to follow, a potential glimpse into the great unknowing of your early life. Here was your birth mother's social security number. Here was the address of the house she lived in when you were born. Here was your birth father's full name and hometown. Here was the name of the doctor who delivered you from your mother's womb. You found your birth father almost immediately. Within a half hour, you had tracked down a mostly empty classmates.com profile, which led to a mostly empty Facebook profile. No photo, only 8 friends, but it was a start. You bookmarked the page and came back to it every few days. The news then was full of adopted children finding their lost birth families through Facebook. You flushed at the possibility that you could be one of them until a few weeks later, when Facebook changed their privacy settings and your digital father disappeared. Finding your mother proved more challenging. Her name was common, difficult to narrow down, and who knows what her last name might have become in the decades since. You had a social security number, but you were wary of exposing her data to identity thieves, or even shady private investigators who you had heard would hold her contact details hostage for exorbitant fees. Thwarted, you gave up. Years passed. You eventually found her through a man named Michael Resendiz, a journalist friend of your girlfriend's. His name was famous, if not his face. The actor Mark Ruffalo had played him in a movie version of his life. Strange as it all seemed, he did deliver. And on the phone, your mother's voice quivered. Is it really you? Over time, she would tell you what had happened to you those first delicate few months of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Sara Easterly.
Okay. What an honor this is. I just have to say it's been a really fantastic day, and this is such a nice cap to it. I have to apologize a little bit. At Adoptee Voices, I say no disclaimers, but I'm giving a disclaimer because I have a lot of swearing. There's a lot of cursing in my piece. I'm reading from my new adult novel in progress. I told Alice I wasn't sure, and she's like, "Ooh, I love cursing." So I'm reading it for you, Alice. And very off-brand for me for Adoptee Voices and Faith Collective. So anyway, there's my disclaimer. Alina was anything but an angel, the Latin meaning of her name. That was the first thought that occurred to her as she sat on the grimy bathroom floor at Target, staring at 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test she hadn't even paid for yet, and now might not. Why pay for something defective? It had to be defective, right? Like me, she thought, remembering Cole's words to her on the night of their latest big fight. Needy, crazy, psycho. Shoving the test back into its foil wrapper and then into her purse, Alina fished through her bag's depths until coming up with a black Sharpie. She stood to flush the toilet with her foot, then scrawled on the metallic stall door, Fuckthis. Fuck it all. She slammed a fist on her words, smudging black ink all over her hand. Fuck her friends, all landing their first perfect jobs immediately out of college and making her feel like a complete loser while she waited tables at the local Olive Garden. Fuck her manager, who yelled at her earlier that night after telling her she'd miserably failed the mystery diner test by not suggesting an appetizer to the fake customer, who, by the way, had to ask 3 times to get their ice water refilled and left thirsty. I have never, ever had a server score so badly, Peter had said, his face matching the crimson of the house Chianti she hadn't bothered to offer that night either. Fuck the job market, full of lame-ass office jobs where her resumes were always rejected anyway. Fuck her parents, always disappointed in her lack of direction and constant life drama. Most of all, fuck Cole, who deep down she knew would never commit. When they went out with friends, he pretended as if they were strangers. He'd linger at the bar with his buddies, pounding back shots of Fireball, and before long, hitting on every tall, gorgeous Barbie girl in the place. Alina knew how to play the game. She, too, could flirt her way around the bar, sometimes even kiss her way through it. Always, though, within Cole's range. She never wanted to go home with anyone, that is, but Cole. She was merely trying to prove she wasn't the needy girl he'd pegged her to be. She didn't want to play the victim, even if she almost always felt like a victim. Predictably on these nights, at 2:30 came the booty call. only it never felt like just a booty call. When Alina opened the apartment door for him, Cole looked up at her with those soulful brown eyes that she could tell held volumes of emotion, longing, regret, perhaps even love. He would hang his head, adorned with his dead father's baseball cap turned backwards, as if he'd been a bad boy. He'd tell her how hot she looked that night and how much it bothered him seeing her talking to other guys. He'd wrap his arms around her and kiss her neck, always her neck, never her lips, showing her with his desperate hands and urgent hips how much he needed her. No matter that he didn't want any of their friends to know they were an item. Alina became like a stick of butter melting in the microwave. Cole was still grieving his father, she knew. In these early morning moments, wrapped together on her futon bed, he seemed tender and vulnerable. She wanted to take care of him and please him, this needy man-child. Shit. Alina remembered the pregnancy test in her purse and hightailed it out of the store, forgetting about either paying or stealing. This wouldn't do at all. Would Cole even believe her? She could hear him already, accusing her of being manipulative, trying to pin him down. She tried not to imagine her parents' reaction. They didn't even know she had sex, premarital sex. That alone would be enough to crush them. They wanted her to live into her namesake. They wanted her to be the angel she once was, perhaps the only time being that night she ended their years of infertility struggles and landed in their arms, just like a heavenly gift from above. Instead, she was following in the footsteps of her first mother, a mother she may have once known but no longer remembered, if babies could actually remember what happened in a mother's womb anyway. A mother who got pregnant too young, merely 17 years old, to keep her baby. A mother whose future potential must have mattered more than her child's, at least as far as Alina could surmise, in spite of all the blah, blah, blah stories about how selfless her mother had been to choose life, a better life, supposedly. But was this really what a better life looked like? Alina slammed her car door and peeled out of the grocery store lot, narrowly missing an elderly lady at the crosswalk who scowled. Alina stuck her hand out the window and flipped the bitch off. No, this wasn't a better life at all. Maybe it was too late for Alina, but there was still time to do something different for this baby growing inside of her. Only what?
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Next up, we have Sarah Myer.
All right. I'll share some images from my graphic novel, and I'll just shift through those as I read. All right, so these are the images that I was hoping to be able to toggle through, but it didn't occur to me that I also need my screen to read my author's note. So I'm going to be reading the author's note from Monstrous at the very back, and I'll be reading an abridged version of it for time. So I was probably 7 or 8 when I tried to squeeze my feet into the pair of small Korean shoes that had accompanied me on my flight to the U.S. as an infant. Supposedly, my foster mother in Seoul gifted them to me, but who knows what actually happened and why. I remember being upset that my feet were too big. These tiny shoes didn't fit me like the bright pink, sparkly jellies I wore at the time. Disappointed, I put them back in my dresser drawer. Now, years later, those shoes are cracked, crumbling, and browned from years of humid Maryland summers with no AC and cold, dry winters. Because I don't know exactly why they were sent with me, nor who sent them, they symbolize the unanswered questions about my origins. Did my birth parents want me to have them so that their child would own a piece of their Korean heritage? Did they dream that I'd wear them with a beautiful silk hanbok one day? Did a charity in Korea donate them with the notion that they were showing an abandoned child an act of kindness? In the most bitter recesses of my mind, I imagine that the organization that facilitated my adoption had a bin full of cheap plastic shoes, and they shipped off a pair with each infant, almost as if they were completing an item on their checklist. Gave child symbol of heritage, not responsible for what happens next. Due diligence complete. Handbok included? Question mark? Yes, no? Or perhaps they were just thrown in with me because it made the whole adoption feel a little less like a transaction and gave the illusion that I was giving gifts and showered with attention before boarding my flight to meet my parents. Gonna toggle through a few more images here. Okay. Hang on. In fact, what I discovered in the past 5 or 6 years raises even more questions. Contradictory birth records, adoption agencies approximating or fabricating birth names, dates, and even birthplace, and most hauntingly, children being kidnapped from their birth parents and sold into adoption under the lie that they were abandoned or orphaned. Honestly, I don't know how I would feel if I ever found out my adoption circumstances were falsified. But if I had the choice between learning a harsh truth or remaining in the dark about it, I'd pick the former. Skipping ahead. Sorry. Okay. Wow, tonal whiplash. Okay. And these are excerpts visually that you're seeing from the last few pages of my book. All right. And here we go. The adoption agency told my parents that I was placed for adoption due to monetary reasons, citing my birth parents' inability to afford raising me. I may never find out whether or not this is true. I still feel waves of sadness, anger, and confusion, but every time it only reminds me to value what I do know. I'm here right now. The point of my book, however, isn't just to talk about these issues as an adoptee. I wanted this book to illustrate the ways in which I was just like any other American kid of my generation, wanting to find my own way, trying to fit in, and struggling with whether or not social status was really worth wearing Jenko jeans or bucket hats as the millennium neared. Like many human beings, my personal story is about discovering who I am and not giving into the false and irresponsible belief that I am forever going to be a victim. Being a visible transracial adoptee, raised in a mostly white community, I'll add, only brought these universal issues to the forefront at an earlier age for me. And yes, it gave me more time to figure them out. Every negative thing that I experienced as a result of racism, bullying, or my own mental health and self-esteem issues had the potential to stop me. But luckily, I eventually saw the real challenge for what it is, I eventually saw the real challenge for what it was, is, and always will be, taking responsibility for my own happiness. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Next up is Shannon Gibney.
What a night, y'all. Thank you so much for sharing your heartfelt work. So many familiar faces and new faces, which is fantastic. I'm going to switch up the tone a little bit, and I'm going to read the first few pages of my short story from When We Become Ours, and it's called Oreo. Louisa Halstead knew that she wasn't Black enough, but she wasn't going to let that stop her from trying. She joined the Black Student Union, tried to broker her math skills into a treasurer position, lost her bid, and settled for parliamentarian, the whitest position on the slate according to her peers, and the most futile, according to her. At the meetings, everyone talked over each other, and there were tons of side conversations going on while a little bit of work got done. They petitioned the library for more books by Black authors and got them. They planned their annual Black History Month banquet, which featured dry chicken and endless speeches by Black elders in ill-fitting suits and gowns who urged them all to stay in school, not fight, graduate, and attend an HBCU. This year, they had successfully organized to hire a fly DJ for a banquet after party, which everyone was excited about. Not bad for a measly sophomore. But Louie, with her curly blonde hair and green eyes, her yellow skin and tiny body stuck out in all the wrong ways. Her hair would not be tamed into a cute bob like all the other Black girls were wearing. Afro, Lance Palmer and his crew would call her in the halls and now also at the dance. Why are you trying to play like you down when you ain't? and she wanted to melt into the wall, although the wall wouldn't take her either. She locked herself in the bathroom late at night, practicing Black English, which she realized all too late was a key marker of Blackness, something she had never had access to in her white household. "I'ma slap the black off of ya," she would say softly into the mirror. This was something she had seen in a movie, but had never heard an actual real-life Black person say. "We about to light up this motherfucker," she said out of the side of her mouth. She noticed that swear words sounded different, even more powerful to her ears in Black English. "She don't know shit," she said next, and then a side eye and a disdainful frown for the imaginary white girl on the other side of the mirror. "Yeah, thanks, Katie. You a real G, ain't you?" Then she would shake her head and laugh at how ludicrous she sounded, the longing to hear herself in the language so strong. She was a mixed Black girl, adopted into a white family who felt unseen by the white kids and unaccepted by the Black ones. And it seemed like she was the only one in all of Newport News, Virginia. When Louie wanted to distract herself from feeling like an outsider, she turned to literature. While her peers jostled and flirted and ran into each other in the halls between classes and lunch, she would be propped up against a wall, reading The Underground Railroad or Sula or Killing the Black Body. On the bus too, she propped her knees up on the seat in front of her, her head below it hiding in a book. Reading Baldwin and Hurston, she had the feeling of conversing with an old friend who knew she was Black and didn't need any performance or proof of belonging. She had just read, quote, "I believe that the fact of the juxtaposition of the white and Black races has created a massive psycho-existential complex. I hope by analyzing it to destroy it," end quote, in Black Skin, White Masks, when Nia Edwards, the coolest girl in school, sat down beside her. Louie was so surprised she dropped the book on the floor. "What is it with this tragic mulatto situation anyhow?" Nia said dramatically. Her butt was only halfway on the seat because Louie was in the middle, taking up most of the space. Nia pushed her left hip into Louie's. "Are you really just going to hide behind books for your whole high school career?" Louie pushed herself up and moved toward the window so that Nia could get herself on the seat properly. She gazed at Nia's long straightened hair and her finely manicured nails. With her almond brown skin, luminous eyes, and don't give a shit attitude, she was definitely in the in crowd at school, even though she seemed to be a loner. In fact, Louie couldn't remember a single time she had seen Nia with a friend. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Next up, we have Shelley Gaske.
Hello, everyone. Thanks to all the lovely people that put on this very delightful and nourishing day. This piece actually originated in the Adoptee Voices class with Sarah Easterly and Alice Stevens and was later published in the Ana Literary Magazine. It is my ode to Claire Danes. I touched a lot of dick in high school, but always for money. In the late 90s, the biggest heartthrob was TV's toxic teen, Jordan Catalano, who repeatedly shunned Claire Danes on My So-Called Life. Even on the rewatches, Claire elevates tucking a strand of overdyed hair behind her ear into angsty teen foreplay. I think he slept with her best friend, leaving Claire dickless. The other teen dream was Leonardo DiCaprio in Romeo and Juliet. Again, Claire ugly crying over his poisoned body, a meet cute ruined by a tragic kingdom. What the Claires coveted more than touch was the liminal anticipation, those jaunty glances on either side of the aquarium, physicality a distant afterthought. To ache was the goal, which fit for a viewing audience whose carnal knowledge was often more theoretical than actual. But I was no Claire. All my dick touching arrived with neither banter nor blushing. As a certified nursing assistant, I woke up before dawn to work at a nursing home with its breathable heat and palpable aromas to give those who forgot to die another chance. Where Claire coveted physical contact, I was drowning in it. She wished for denim-covered mysteries. I politely washed under boobs. I wasn't ordered to get a job, but as I scrubbed off the pre-death smells, my parents called me a hard worker, which was the sliver of praise that I needed to continue. So what if I never got to go to parties or on dates? It's impossible to tell what percentage of such a work ethic is from my parents and the repercussions of being adopted at 3 days old. The story was my parents wanted a baby very much, and then a lady came along who knew she couldn't take care of me as well as they could. As an actual child, I didn't know much about moms and babies, but I knew mothers could lift refrigerators to free their children and that mama bears were the most dangerous of creatures. To think that a mom, any mom, would not do those things out of a feral love was to declare that mother a failure. Was the story I was told a euphemism for my mom failing? How had she known she couldn't take care of me? Did she smell the faulty programming? Did she pass it on? And if she figured out in less than 3 days that I would never be worth hoisting a Subaru for, how long would it take before my adoptive parents realized it? Because while this feels outlandish, it really isn't when a big part of your sense of self is that the one person who isn't supposed to desert you willingly let you live with total strangers. Child logic is a more dangerous bedfellow than Jordan Catalano. She left you warped into I was worth leaving. I didn't know what I'd done to make my birth mom leave me, but I sure as hell wasn't going to lose another one. Exhaustion was the only currency my parents respected. They worked harder, never smarter, like children wearing oversized clothes and tripping over the hems. They were less likely to change their mind about me if I changed mine to be just like them. Another baby tromping to work in orthopedic shoes. My family grew to enjoy turning my teenage full-time caretaking job into a cruel joke. They deemed it the lowest work, managing the dignity and bodily fluids of others. My grandparents addressed my Christmas card to weenie washer. It stung, but it told me I was safe because no one throws away a good punchline. It would have been cool, I think, to sit next to Claire after class, sharing sighs and thrifted sweaters, conjuring romance from fleeting moments. But Claire didn't understand what it meant to be relinquished. She wasn't living in fear of it happening again. And anyway, I had to go to work. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for that. Next up is Stefany Valentine.
Hello, I am Stefany Valentine. Hey, Shannon. Woo! I'm so happy to be here. I owe a lot of this book, I guess, to what Shannon and Nicole did. They when they wrote when we become ours together. It was like I was talking about this in my previous panel, but it was the first time that I actually discovered like an adoptee community, and I was like, oh my God, there's a safe space for me to have all these feelings. What? So happy to be here in a room full of fellow adoptees as well. And yeah, so my debut novel, I'm gonna read like an excerpt from my debut novel. It's called First Love Language. It came out in January. Funny story, while I was getting this published, I actually like serendipitously found my biological mom. So I was able to go to Taiwan, hug her for the first time in 25 years, show her my book and everything. It's been the most bizarre experience ever, but I'm so happy to be here today. And oh my God, y'all's poetry is slapping. It's amazing. Okay, so yeah, in this scene, it's a young adult rom-com or romantic dramedy about going on fake dates inspired by the love languages as a way to like in exchange for free Mandarin lessons, because the main character is adopted and she's trying to reconnect with her culture through learning language. It's like one of the few things she actually has control over learning and grasping. And so she's on her acts of service date with her Mandarin tutor. And I really like this scene because I think it expresses so much of like our experiences of like how we can be happy on the surface, but like deep down something just is always missing, and like we're constantly reminded of that. And that's kind of what this scene is about. So they're just cooking in the kitchen. It's part of their like love language date. And here I go. But try as I might, I can't figure out what Toby is cooking. He pulls some marinated beef from the freezer, then chops up onions, carrots, and peppers into toothpick slices. He dumps them all in a skillet, and the air thickens with garlic and toasted sesame. Okay, I need to know what you're making, I say. Toby fries noodles in another skillet, but pantomimes locking his lips and throwing away the key. Can't. I got this recipe from my aunties in Busan. The marinated beef is a family secret passed down from generation to generation. Toby's words punch me right in the stomach. Maybe it's our competing smells, or maybe it's the fact that no one ever taught me anything about Taiwanese food. That's the thing about living with rain clouds over your head. I can be in the middle of something so fun and then snap, I remember that no matter what, a part of me is somewhere else. What's wrong? Toby stopped stirring his concoction. Apparently, I'm easier to read than I thought. Should I tell him what's really on my mind? Would Toby even understand? He has money and I don't. He has parents and I don't. He belongs and I have to force myself to believe that I do too. I wish I was like you, I finally say, not sure why I open up to him. Maybe it's because he's the closest thing I have to Taiwan, and he's not even Taiwanese. It's just, do you ever miss something you've never had? I dare myself to look at him, to see if this rich boy with a home and parents and secret recipes could ever understand someone like me. And to my surprise, the answer is yes. I see it in his eyes, in the way that they go distant. I see it in the way his shoulders slump as if there's an invisible force pulling them down, and he's tired of holding himself up. I see it in the way he twirls a finger around a loose curl, and I hear it in the way he says, every day of my life. The air is thick with steam. I feel like I should ask Toby what he means, but I know he doesn't want to talk about it because everything about him, from the tilt of his head down to the way his toes are pointed away from me, it all speaks a language of pain I didn't realize I was fluent in. So, yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least at all is Susan Ito.
Hi, everyone. This has been the most amazing day. My heart is so full. It's so full being with all of you and everyone who came today. I'm just blown away. It's been fantastic. In the interest of time, and also because I'm reading from an anthology of poetry that is being published next week, April 1st. It's called The Gate of Memory, Poems by Descendants of Nikkei Wartime Incarceration. Is that a mouthful? But I'm so honored to be part of this anthology of collection of poetry. She was incarcerated. I exist. If she and her family had stayed in her Western state, if she had remained in the house of her childhood, if her father, my grandfather, had kept his business, if her siblings had stayed in school, if they hadn't been taken by bus to the racetrack, if they hadn't gotten on the train with their single suitcases, if they hadn't ended up in camp for 3 years, if they hadn't been released to the sponsorship of a white church in a white town far from the Western state where she'd been born, she might have grown up in her Nikkei community, finding a nice Japanese boy to date, marry, raise a family. But instead, she grew up in the white town, in a state with few Asians, nobody to date, nobody to marry, only white boys who wouldn't bring her home. This is how I came to be her mixed secret. This is how she carried me invisibly under her girdle. This is how she let me go in yet another state. This is how I found my Nisei parents waiting over 10 years for their Japanese baby. If she hadn't been in that camp, I wouldn't exist. So thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been such an amazing day. I just wanted to say Thank you for our supporters, Adoptees On, Adoptee Voices, ICA, Inclusion Initiative, and Adoption Mosaic. Thank all of you for attending. And if you did not see it earlier, please check out our fantastic sizzle reel. There it is. There's our fantastic sizzle reel of readers. That was kind of our lunchtime break, and maybe not everybody was able to do it. And please support all of our adoptee authors by purchasing their books through Loyalty Books. So much amazing work. And as we've been saying all day, this event was a labor of love, so much love. People have asking if we take donations, and yes, we do. We are set up for Venmo at Adoptee Lit Fest. If you feel so inclined to help with providing honoraria to our amazing presenters, speakers, panelists, workshop facilitators. Everyone has been volunteering, and we're so grateful. Yeah, this has been such a beautiful day. And thank you especially to our fearless leader, Alice Stevens. I've been so honored to be at her side this year, this time, and it's been beyond inspiring to be able to work with her and the rest of the team, who I'm going to miss so much. I love you all so much. Could we, let's see, remove spotlight. Can you remove my spotlight? There we go. Remove my spotlight. I want to see everybody. Let's see everybody. This was just a fantastic day, and I'm so happy with how everything went and turned out. I'm so grateful to all of you here who donated so much beautiful labor and love and energy. No, actually, you didn't. You are going to get paid an honorarium. You are, but thank you for all of your participation. It's beautiful being in community with you. So anybody can feel free to, unmute and say things if you want to. This is our finale.
It was a beautiful day. Thank you so much to everybody. Yeah, I feel the warmth, the adoptee warmth. So I really appreciate y'all. Keep on keeping on. Don't be strangers, follow people on socials. I got off of Meta because fuck Meta. They stole my stuff, but and everybody else's. But I'm on Blue Sky at Shannon Gibney. Follow me. I'm on I've got a website. I'm gonna try and find y'all, and I'll see you in these streets.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to say it was great to meet all of you, and yeah, thanks for having us.
And I just wanted to say another thank you to Susan and Alice and Sara and Marci and Carrie for rocking the Zoom tech in today. It's been a pleasure to work with this team. I also just want to say for everyone watching and everyone here, we are going to be sending out a survey after the fact to get some feedback from you all. And we will also be giving away some books based on whoever is able to fill out that survey. So please stay tuned for that in your inboxes. And we really do care about what you have to say and how we can grow and make this even more amazing in the future. So look out for that. Probably not tonight, but in the coming days. Yeah.
Yeah, just thank you, everybody. My heart is so full. This was months and months of volunteering for all of us, and I just feel like our community really needs this kind of event, especially at this time when we are all feeling so under siege and we are all feeling so marginalized. We get together, we lift our voices up together, we support each other, and that's just gonna go out like throwing a rock in the water. Those rings are gonna go wide and we don't even know where they're going to end up and who is going to, find their soul cleaned by our ripples. So thank you everybody so much.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Mariama and Marci and Kelly and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Our rockin' keynote. Thank you.